Hi, everyone. I think it's my turn to present. And it's actually, I fit in the same line of work, right? Where we work with communities and we crowdsource data collection to inform programming, but also planning, research, and situational awareness. Perfect. Thank you. So you want me to work on this? That sounds good. Yeah, sure. Can I do this? Hold on.
So you can just
Got it. Perfect. Oh, I'm not used to the mouse. Got it.
okay.
Just need some notes here.
All
All right, perfect.
good.
Yeah, so my name is Behar. I lead partnerships premise. As I said, we are a crowdsourced data collection platform that enables development organizations, but also the commercial world, to collect data remotely and near real time using a vast network of smartphone users who get paid to collect data, both sentiment and observations. And maybe before I go on, I'd like to kind of set the agenda here, what I will be presenting. The first one would be, oh, sorry, why is this messed up? How do I make it the full screen?
So just click here, slideshow.
Oh, now it's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me set the stage here. So I'd like to first kind of bring back a couple of problem statements that were brought up by previous speakers and kind of validate them and how they are sort of part of the backbone of why we exist, why we as a crowdsourced platform are trying to do and what we're trying to solve. And then I'll go kind of after those problem statements, talk about the model and what we do and how we do crowdsourced data collection. And then I will go into some real life examples. So maybe first off, I think earlier I heard in various ways and means is that, quantifiable data at scale is about communities that are granular, right? Is difficult. It can be cumbersome. And being able to collect that at scale brings about a lot of challenges. And that makes it very difficult for development partners to really have, as wide of an understanding of the needs on the ground or the situation on the ground across regions, across demographics, to better do granular or precise interventions, right? And we see it a lot that because of that we depend on qualitative evidence, right? Anecdotal evidence. We turn to media, we turn to key informant interviews or experts and those networks that we have, and we try to take an understanding from what we get from them and kind of extrapolate it to the whole population wide. Another piece that I heard earlier was that the context frequently change faster than the data can be collected, right? In non-permissive environments or in conflict settings, right? The lines of the battles are shifting. The needs of the people, right, are changing from day to day. Displacement movements, right? They're all dynamic. And sometimes when we try to run nationally driven kind of field data collection efforts, by the time we get the data right, the context has changed. So as an entity, we really kind of started looking at that as a problem that we ought to find a way to solve, right? Field data collection, right? Be it for situation awareness, be it for understanding needs assessment during a time of conflict or in the aftermath of a conflict, right? Or be it just sentiments around an event like a coup, right? Trying to understand what people are thinking, what those dynamics and differences in thinking and sentiments may be, right, can be challenging. And no matter what, right, to run field data collection, really, we need to have a lot of kind of overhead to manage. Need to hire enumerators, train them, send them to the field, manage their manage their data collection efforts, have them go home, every fifth village, right, in non-permissive or every fifth home, right, and perform these interviews. Even though we see that, kind of the times have changed and have brought about a lot of technological advancement, and we are no longer following traditional means like of doing data collection using pen and paper, right? We've moved to tablets and phones. However, that step change has not been enough to make the ability to go and understand the needs of those on the ground in near real time, right? And knowing this, really, we have been able to look at some different changes, right? Or some kind of ecosystem changes that are good news, right? First one is really an explosive growth in access to smartphones, and also access to smartphones that are affordable all across low and middle income countries. We ran a survey with a vast network of individuals living in over 100 countries, and we understood that the average cost for a used smartphone is about $31. So it's becoming more and more affordable to get a smartphone. The GSMA, which is an association of mobile technologies, did a study on sort of the adoption rate of smartphones across low and middle income countries, and found that in 2020, about 67% of the population had smartphones, and they modeled that again to see that in 5 years' time it would be about 78%. That, coupled with a recent study that GIZ did on trying to understand the gig economy, right? How people are turning to the gig economy, right? Doing micro tasks to earn part or their entire income, right? So when we see these happening, this kind of gives us this opportunity to turn citizens, ordinary people living in different places, into data collection or data contributors. And this is where basically kind of our model or premise comes in, right? We crowdsource data collection remotely in any place where the data may be needed, using those that are out there on the ground. And we do that without compromising both kind of the market research standards, but also academic standards. We do that fast, or at least because we are turning to those that are living on the ground. We can be able to launch data collection tasks and get that information really within a day to a week. For programming that's trying to capture understanding of what may be going on in a given place, this really can enable that. The other one is we do it easy. So we already have these individuals that are tapping into their, turning their smartphone into the ability to make some extra money. By doing more and more data collection work, they're becoming better. So we don't have that need, or we don't need to always try to hire people, train them, get them to a given place. And we really make it easy by coupling that with the technology that manages the whole life cycle of data. And we do it almost everywhere. I wouldn't say everywhere. We're constantly growing the network. Some countries are harder than the others, but the idea is like, how can we enable this ability to go from questions to answers in any given place at any given time, leveraging those that are on the ground. So how do we do that, right? Everything starts with our contributors. These are ordinary citizens living in any place that have a smartphone, who basically can download our app and get paid to share their opinions or observations. They can get 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents, depending on the country thresholds, for providing, a 4-minute or responding to a 4-minute survey of 25 questions, or by performing observations, going somewhere to map out a place, to take a picture of something, to add attributes around that, and making a few dollars. And at this point, our network is constantly growing, but we have about 6.5 million individuals across 144 countries that have downloaded our app and are serving from one time to or another as data contributors. And this, we're supporting 40 languages that are basically supported by the iOS and Android systems. And we do this all in one platform. So we manage the whole life cycle of the data, from data collection to quality assurance, all the way to insights, all within one place. And how do we do that? Basically, this is as simple as coming up with a set of questions, turning that into an instrument questionnaire, and then launching that into this marketplace, into the app where all these app users, or what we call data contributors, are. And they see that very transparently, how much it costs, how much time it may take, and where do they need to go if it's an observational type of data collection task. And we have the ability, because we know everyone's demographics, so we have the ability to sub-target by gender, a given geography, those that are employed, those that are youth, depending on the type of data collection or theme that we're covering. And all the data, as it's coming in, as individuals are, as these data contributors are submitting the data, it goes through a set of both machine learning and AI tools for quality assurance that can detect potential fraud and ensure greater authenticity of the data. Because at the end of the day, we're dealing with a crowd, right? And there is a monetary incentive. So we build these computer vision tools to determine whether an image is blurry or it's duplicate or it's a screenshot from a phone, right? Or we have all sorts of kind of straight lining checks or GPS mock-up or spoofing type of tools to detect that and reject a potential fraudulent submission. And this goes basically as it's coming in and going through this automated check. Of course, we have a human in the loop process in there. They go into insights. So how can we make sure that we do not just sit at that point of here's the raw data, but how can we make sure that that's process transformed into either basic charts or more like bespoke dashboards or GIS maps, so that decision makers can really get a handle of those insights right away and be able to drive either their programming or design, planning, or be able to understand impact on the ground. So what we've been doing really, I mean, we consider ourselves as this generic data collection tool because, frankly speaking, everything is ones and zeros. So if we are able to turn that into an instrument, into a tool or data collection tool, people can can fulfill that. But we have been working for the past 10 years in the development space and humanitarian aid space. And we kind of see about 4 types of solutions where we think we do a great job and we really help solve some of those challenges that different organizations grapple with, right? One is context monitoring. What is this? These are panel surveys. These could be recurring surveys over time, so they can provide this longitudinal understanding in a given location, across demographics, across geographies, right? Think of sentiments, understanding situational awareness, or, do you feel safe? Have you been satisfied with the public services in a given location, right? What do you think about a given problem that your community is facing? But this context monitoring also allows the ability to run ad hoc tools, because we have this ability to launch and go from questions to answers very quickly. So ad hoc tools like responding to events, like if there is a flood somewhere, or if there are elections and there is violence around it, and we want to understand really the context on the ground, then we can launch these and get feedback or information from the crowd very quickly. The other solution is more around social behavior change. This is where we can leverage the wisdom of the crowd to understand, to perform audience segmentation. message resonance and or test out campaigns. So if we are trying to change behavior, if we're, we have the ability to run different types of surveys to get to a point where we really hone in into concrete messaging and those that are more impactful and measure that. Market studies, this is really sending people to a store, a mom and pop shop, or a bazaar. Go and, every day, every week, every month, understand product, get information about product pricing and product availability. This is the same in the healthcare system, in the healthcare vertical, right? Go to pharmacies and be able to understand what's available in stock, so that if we are thinking about potential interventions, right? Do we give cash distribution to buy more expensive health products, or should we replenish the market so then the costs are lowered? These are kind of the ways where we see market performance and market studies really play a role. And the mapping, it would probably go a lot with what HOT does, but it's location intelligence, right? Ability to map out places, health facilities, or site visits. Go into there and understand if a health facility is opening from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. If people maybe run an intercept survey with a patient to see if they are satisfied with a given location, right? So we pick out the GPS, but also attributes around that location. So maybe I will go now, not maybe, but I'll just go now to some real world examples. So I was talking about ad hoc surveys, right? In early February and in March, there was a cyclone that hit central Africa, southern African coast twice. And we were able, after the second time, the damage was much more significant. So we were able within the next 2 days to launch a task and be able to get a needs assessment. So understand if people's homes have been damaged, or if they have a place where to go, right? These are kind of the types of questions we're in. But we also were able to capture some damage assessments. So we asked them to provide observations. So go around your community and take pictures and add attributes around those damages. So then we can start understanding and assessing what we're looking at it. So in such events, sometimes the context or access to data becomes quite difficult. So this is where basically we turn to those that are on the ground, that have that phone and access to internet, that can perform such data collection efforts. We talked about Ukraine, I think. We've been doing a lot. We ran a lot of both longitudinal, but also more ad hoc type of surveys. We ran food pricing and stable food pricing and availability. We ran surveys around fuel price and availability. We also ran needs assessment types of data collection tasks, where people basically were taking pictures of their fridges and kind of showcasing, maybe when we were talking earlier about anticipatory action, right? In 2 days, I may run out of food. In 5 days, I may run out of food. In 1 month, I may run out of food. Here is my stock, right? So these were kind of different ways where leveraging these individuals, even though it was a wartime and they're spending part of their day in a bunker or hiding, they're able to, to get online and provide insights, so then the likes of humanitarian aid organizations have better information to drive their planning or to drive their cash distributions or market replenishment. What you see in the lower, images is basically the price of fuel. We had individuals go at different fuel stations every single day to see what the price may be. How long is the wait to get to the to a fuel station, and ask them if they can afford that. So that kind of information really provides another layer of understanding of how people may be able to deal with potential energy crisis, right? Are they going to stay warm, etc. We've worked also in other types of use cases where premise contributors worked hand in hand with, validating satellite imagery, right? This is a project in Venezuela during the time when there was a huge influx of refugees into Colombia. Different partners or humanitarian aid organizations wanted to know is like, where might we see settlements for being formed, right? Where are people gathering? Where are these individuals from Venezuela crossing the border and going to and ending up to? So then they could better understand how they can prioritize what settlements are there, what needs there may be. So our contributors basically were going to validate these satellite imagery detection of possible settlements. So they would go on the ground and say, okay, there's been trash here, or there's been bottles of water. So therefore, there was a settlement, or maybe if people are in there, kind of validate that it is a settlement now. Other types of use cases from our end, this is in social and behavior change. So this, as the vaccines were being produced, and we worked with actually a pharmaceutical company that produced one of the vaccines, and we're able to run different types of surveys into different groups in order to, one, understand what, who may be prone to not getting the vaccine, or understand kind of the information landscape around vaccine intake, right? And then the other ones is like to test out messaging. So we ran media there, right? If you see this, how does this make you feel? If you see this, how does it make you feel? Is this type of message convincing enough for you to go actually to the clinic and take the vaccine, right? So the likes of WHO or other organizations could leverage the data. Other than that, this is more, we worked with actually a UN entity, this was a pilot, to map out transhumance networks, right, across Central Africa region. So we had individuals go to different cattle markets, interview vendors, understand their kind of supply chain, right? How difficult it is to raise the cow, right? How, what are the type of foods that they're missing for the cow to get the weight that it needs to, to make them more money? What are the pricing and how does this change? So, and this was kind of as a way to understand, to get data on transhumans populations and see how that may be impacting or shifting kind of migration patterns across Cameroon. Last one, or the last before, I would say, I don't know how I'm doing time-wise.
So you're doing great, but we just want to save it maybe a few minutes for questions, comments, etc. So
I cannot show the video, but basically this is a new product that we just launched and we tested out. So we're dealing with a lot of data literacy across the spectrum with data contributors. But in the meantime, we're realizing that there's so much more nuance when they provide qualitative information. So we, using kind of the new trend, we were able to leverage all the data that we've been collecting for the past 10 years and build a generative research transcription set of language models and machine learning tools to transcribe individuals from videos or voices and turn them into, into extracts where we can get insights around their emotions, around themes, and classify that all in real time as the videos or voices are coming. So this way we would both be able to run qualitative types of surveys from real people, and also be able to understand where that may be. Of course, in the commercial side, it's much easier because we say, do you like Coca-Cola? And then they say yes or no, and or I love Coke or I love Pepsi more. So we'll be able to pick up these kind of, there's much more nuance on the side of conflict and crisis response. But what we see here really is trying to understand emotions of individuals that we piloted this new tool in Ukraine, and we were able to see, so we asked them, what do you think is Ukraine winning the war, right? And some, were saying, yes, we're winning the war, we're recapturing territories, right? Or some were saying something like, our fighting spirit is very strong, etc. So then our LLM was, and our machine learning tools were able to pick up these and classify these themes and be able to quickly generate insights out of them. And the last one, and probably I don't need to delve deeper into this, but in places like Niger, right, the coup happened, and there's not much networks out there for development organizations to leverage, or gain insights into what people are really thinking about the coup or the outlook of what that may, of the outlook of life. And The Economist turned to us and said, we're writing an article and we'd like in the next 2 days to get some insights around, local residents, what they feel or what they think about, the actions of the junta, which was, highly, highly accepted, right? About 73% thought that they should stay in power, right? Or that, 50% of them said they prefer to be, the foreign intervention should be by Russia, right? And then in the meantime, as organizations were trying to figure out potential opening of routes for aid or extraction of international personnel, right? We're able to deploy observational type of tasks so that individuals could go and look at a Google map from one place to the airport and take pictures along the way to kind of create a clearer picture for the given a potential evacuation, or if there was a need to send aid. So I will maybe hold it off here and end the presentation. I hope it's not been longer than I'm allotted to, but I will be happy to answer questions and discuss more.
Yes.
Just I see a lot of promise in these type of crowdsourcing solutions. My name is Iham from the Information Management Unit, and I just wanted to say we'll probably be convening internally within the UN deeper dive into this type of technologies, because I see both from the peacekeeping and special political missions angle a lot of value in having access to a sort of ongoing feed of questions that you can ask immediately to the populations and then be able to get responses back. Of course, there's infinite number of questions, methodological stuff like that we can get into. But just for everyone who is joining from the UN, the Information Management Unit will be convening an internal discussion on this in the coming weeks. So keep an eye on for that shortly. But thank you so much, Bahar, for presenting it. It's a really fascinating solution, and I'm very impressed with what premise and also we have actually been able to build.
Thanks for the plug.
Gary. Likewise, I have a follow-up conversation with you because Interpeace has launched this Finance for Peace initiative, and I'm working with them on that. And I kind of run the secret labs part of that Finance for Peace initiative, which is about how you would build tokens that people could invest in for peace, not peace bonds and peace equity, but peace tokens. And so I think there's the kernel of an idea there, which is having people engaged regularly, almost asking kind of Afro-barometer questions. And I think both of your models, and we were thinking about Cobalt Toolbox and others, but having people ask questions regularly about their belief in the peace being built, but then also having them invested in that piece so that then you can kind of validate it over time, whether people are telling you what their belief about the piece is and whether the piece is actually holding or not. So we're super interested in that. But related to that, there's two questions for you. One is the safety of people that are going to the airport route to document what it is. I think they're informed citizens. They probably know what their safety is. And so I don't want to be patrimonial about it and assume that I know more than they do. But it's a question I'm sure you've encountered before. And the second one is, how do you know they're not just randomly hitting 5 buttons in a row and then you pay them a dime?
Yeah. Thanks. No, these are very, very good questions. Does anyone have another question? Maybe, yeah, I can cover.
I mean, yeah, it's somewhat related, but I do wonder about sort of representativeness and how you ensure it. I saw that you are able to target specific demographics, but I'm also thinking of demographics that you might not be able to access, elderly people, people with lower levels of literacy. How do you go about ensuring gender representativeness in areas where women might be less likely to have mobile phones, people like socioeconomic levels, people for whom it might, or who might not have phones, or for whom it might not make sense to do this for some extra cash?
Yeah, and yeah, these are actually great questions because these are challenges that we have grappled with since day one. We're dealing with a crowd, and basically we're promising that we're going to get data. So having quality data, it's key. So we have different types of processes, ways, and then tools to detect fraud. Now, does it meet, is that 100% accurate all the time? No. And that's why we have also, we are acquired as a software as a subscription. So that comes with an account management, global operations team, and data analytics team. So they're able to also have a human kind of layer into the authenticity of the data. Now, from the sentiments perspective, really, in terms of quality of data, there are a lot of tools, and I'd love to go kind of deeper, maybe in a follow-up, where we can detect straight lining. If someone is just like, right, for the purpose of getting the money, right, they just go and click fast, right? So we've done research, and we know that if an answer takes less than 3 seconds, it will automatically be rejected. They will not get paid. There's, we also create a logic that's from question to question, it changes, so then they cannot follow the same pattern, right? There's other tools, if we are sending someone to a given place, right? And we want to make sure that they are actually there. We can draw a polygon around that. And until they are inside that polygon, be it around the site or around the village, they cannot open the task and make them, right? So, but then we also have tenure, right? Their past performance. So we have the ability to detect potential anomalies. They said that they're 21 years old once, and then they said they're a woman another time and a man, right? So those things would be detected. We build the tools to do that. In terms of safety, that's a big challenge. And we work in some of the more complex environments, right? So in terms of processing, there are some countries where we cannot accept any data collection project unless it goes to our, C-suite for approval, including our legal team, right? But we have other means of getting permissions locally. So in Ukraine, for example, local municipalities had a say if we can go and do data collection or not. Others, right, we've had people that have ID cards or even t-shirts that say premise data contributor, just to make sure that they become legitimate. We run a lot of trainings around safety, right? No one can actually perform a data collection task after downloading the app unless they go through a safety training and some other types of training, right? And these are all done in app. And we've done, I think, about 20 million data collection tasks within our lifetime, and we've had about 33 incidents, some bigger than others. But that's top of mind always. And even we provide instructions in the actual data collection task. If you feel insecure, leave this, don't do it, right? We have also other means of kind of encrypting, even though their responses may be kind of submitted in the phone and they stay in the browser until they may get, if they're offline, that can be encrypted. So we have kind of a switch that we can make it encrypted or not. So yeah, there's various ways that and means and processes and tools that we're always putting in there to ensure that, and we have a 24/7 kind of on-call or on-duty officer to help people if they face problems. In terms of demographics, that's a big challenge. We are very demand driven. In some countries, we don't have demand. And frankly speaking, if people show up in the app and there's no tasks for them, right? So they're not going to show up again. So in some countries, we have a very small, maybe 500 people network. In others, like Nigeria, the Philippines, Ghana, etc., we have thousands at any given time, being online and, making money by performing a data collection task. Now, we have some means, right, with mixed methods, for example, in those countries where we can run an in-panel survey that, for a national representative sample, right? And we have a data methodologies that would put together sampling strategies. And then we would turn these in-panel users or contributors into actual enumerators. So we ask them to go and interview others, maybe intergenerationally, your mother, your grandmother, or maybe neighbors, right? And if we don't have someone in a given space, we either grow that network, right? We have different levers to turn on a network, turn it off, stagger it, or grow it through different means like digital advertisement, partnerships, paid referrals, right? But so we can also get people to go to a place and fit like every fifth village, every fifth household, and pick up different types of different types of demographics to fill in the gap. Now, is it always successful? No. Sometimes we worked with some organizations like they were trying to get, last mile zero dose programs, like go and find pregnant women in the furthest village possible, to get them to become aware of what's available for their kids, make sure that they know that they can, and maybe guide them to a potential clinic, right? Those are very challenging. DRC, let's say, those are very challenging. So it can take forever, right? In some countries, it's either you get on a motorcycle, you go to the next village. Some others, it may be also safety. So sometimes we fail to meet the national representativeness, the sampling. But if we're talking about situational awareness, right, there's always the caveat. We can do that very quickly and get convenient samples like within a day. Sorry, that was very long to answer 3 questions, but these are very fundamental questions for, our business model, right?
Yeah, we'll do one more question maybe and wrap it up, yeah.
And just maybe more so for a comment from a sort of an organizational perspective. We don't have in-house the capacity to run and conduct surveys. It's a specialized skill, and it requires, so in many ways that the fact that you can raise these kind of methodological questions is awesome, because you have an actor that actually knows the methodologies and can adjudicate whether, a certain sampling criteria responds to the specific research question that the organization might have had. Within the UN, there are very few places where you actually are able to run surveys. Not speaking for the development and humanitarian side of the house, but for the peace and security side of the house, very few places where we can sort of confidently run surveys. Oftentimes we have to go through a very cumbersome procurement process, and then when the data actually then comes out, it's not always that we have the capacity or the people skills to analyze it appropriately, and with all the methodological caveats that you all raised around here. So anyway, it's just it's a very interesting discussion, and the fact that you've thought about it all the way down to the way you have these sampling methodologies is very interesting.
Yeah, we try to be that Swiss Army knife for data collection. Do we meet that goal? Not always, but the idea is that, we're striving for that all the time. Yeah.
I think we have to move to the next question.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks.